This is our focus on Good Morning Nigeria, the third edition of For the Week. I am Femi Okeowo, heartily welcoming you to the edition.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Femi and also welcoming you to the program, reaching you as always live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're Africa's largest television network and we are broadcasting from our Abuja headquarters studios. As always, in the course of the program, we have our regular complimentary segments, and these include the Super Review, business, sports, and others. Of course, Super Eagles were successful last night against the Libyans, triumphing 3-2, although we had 2 goals and lost those 2 goals with the equalizer by the Libyans. But then there was a last gap effort, and the Eagles triumphed 3-2. They now top their group with South Africa trailing behind them. But in the meantime, let's take the highlights of the morning news with our colleague, Dennis Adegunloye. Hello, Dennis.
Good morning, Femi, and good morning, Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. President Muhammadu Buhari Tuesday spoke with Mohammed Liman, father of Hawa Liman, the International Committee of the Red Cross ICRC midwife who was slain by Boko Haram terrorists. A statement by Garba Shehu, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, says in a phone call, President Buhari commiserated with the family and assured Ms. Liman's father that the Nigerian government did everything possible to save his daughter's life, expressing sadness that all the efforts turned out unsuccessful. He regretted that her commitment to helping victims of the Boko Haram insurgency ended in such a brutal way. President Buhari also spoke with Peter Mura, the president of the ICRC, extending condolences on the loss of the midwife. The president commended the ICRC for the great work they had been doing in Nigeria by providing healthcare services to victims of insurgency in some of the most affected areas. President Buhari appealed to the ICRC to continue their services in Nigeria and not to give up despite the unfortunate and painful loss of their staff. According to the president, Nigeria needs the ICRC, and the government will continue to do all it can to protect staff of the organization and other aid workers that are providing much-needed humanitarian services in the northeast region, which had been affected by almost a decade-long conflict. The desperate manner in which the nation's youth dared the Sahara Desert and Mediterranean Sea to take menial jobs abroad is hurting the pride of Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari said this while exchanging views with the outgoing High Commissioner of the Republic of Namibia. The president promised to put a stop to the disturbing trend by making the country livable again. President Buhari noted that Nigeria and South Sudan have a lot in common as regards developmental aspirations. Although even for Nigeria, he said it has not been smooth sailing all the way, but things are not much better, and now much better. And since the troubled country wants to share from Nigeria's experience, the federal government would support where it can towards achieving stability. The president, however, advised Sudan to keep making sacrifices to that and enable environments can be created, stressing that stability should be the #1 priority. Nigerians and the international community have been assured that the 2019 general election will not only be free and fair, but will usher the country into a more promising era of peace and unity and maturity. President Buhari stated this while receiving 4 new ambassadors accredited to Nigeria. The envoys from Japan, Russia, Brazil, and the United Arab Emirates presented their letters of credence. President Muhammadu Buhari told the envoys separately that Nigeria's political and electoral institutions have continued to evolve and strengthen skills and experience after each election. Now at another threshold, the 6th and in the series since return to democracy in 1999. The president said he expects nothing short of free and fair conduct. All the ambassadors who were treated to a befitting diplomatic welcome assured the president of working hard towards enhancing ties in key sectors of the economy while wishing Nigeria the best in the forthcoming elections. Senate has approved 53 billion naira for security agencies for the 2019 general elections. This was part of the funds requested by President Muhammadu Buhari in the Supplementary Budget and Environment 2018.
Aggregate sum of 242 billion 245,050,100 naira be approved as payment for the 2019 general elections for ANEC.
In a similar development, the House of Representatives has approved for environment the sum of 831,259,220,000 naira and 255 naira to fund INEC for 2019 general elections that will be sourced from 2018 Appropriation Act.
Was in respect of payment of funds to finance Independent National Electoral Commission INEC and the security agencies toward preparation of the 2019 general election, for which no provision were made in the 2018 Appropriation Act.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it.
Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo has warned that any developing economy like Nigeria that discounts the centrality of risk allocation principles in public-private partnership is doing so at its own peril. He stated this at the opening of a two-day public-private partnership workshop organized by Global Infrastructure Hub in collaboration with Nigeria's Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, ICRC. He said the correct application of risk allocation principles in infrastructure projects is fundamental to bankability and the long-term viability of such projects. The Vice President described PPPs in infrastructure development as simply a practical wisdom, as governments lack resources to solely finance, build, and manage public infrastructure. At the workshop, attended by representatives from the 13 countries, it was revealed that $7.6 trillion is required to meet infrastructure needs on African continent between now and 2040. A memorandum of understanding was signed between the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission and the Global Infrastructure Hub towards advancing the delivery of infrastructure in Nigeria and Africa. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed is in London ahead of a series of engagements with major stakeholders and global policy shapers, as well as the foreign media. In an exclusive interview, the minister explained the rationale for the international global engagement.
This becomes very important in view of attempts by naysayers to actually give a negative narrative about, happenings in Nigeria. So it's part of our, continuous engagement with, major foreign media outlets and international think tanks. This is in addition to what we do at home. At home too, we do engage regularly, the major stakeholders and also major, think tanks.
He also spoke on areas of major concern which must be put in perspective for a broader understanding. Well, that's the news for this morning on Good Morning Nigeria. Kingsley and Femi will be back after this timeout.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem frontally through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
What's up?
His friends didn't come.
Hey, let's practice.
But you're going out.
Don't worry about me.
Nothing satisfies a mother more than seeing a child grow up. But I know as he sweats, he'll face the risk of germs which can cause skin irritation.
That's why you need the new best ever Dettol Cool. Its new advanced formulation with extra menthol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs and gives your family icy cool freshness.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
Reorganized, trained, and fully equipped, we are the new improved Nigeria Police Force. We fight crime. We bust syndicates. Whatever the crime, wherever the hideout, the Nigeria Police Force will get you busted. Stop kidnapping, armed robbery, murder, pipeline vandalism, and other criminal activities. Be productive. Be security conscious. Join the police force to secure your life and property. This message is from the Nigeria Police Force Public Relations Department.
The Aerial Assurance Challenge.
Oh, thank you. But what assurance can you give our daughter?
Everything. With the new look Aerial, I can even do the laundry.
Prove it then.
Okay. Let's make this stain even tougher. Now, let's wash the cloth with your detergent and with new look Aerial. Do you believe me now?
Aerial, now in a new look pack.
You in the air-conditioned office with the itchy throat. Strepsils. Girl in the spotlight with the raspy throat. Strepsils. You in the pollution. Yes, you. Dry throat. Strepsils. Hello in the downpour with the scratchy throat. Take Strepsils. Strepsils, with its soothing medicinal ingredients, will heal the harm done to your throat from external factors. Strepsils. 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 For a dry, itchy, raspy, scratchy throat.
Fake news which is shared for malicious purposes is a danger to our peace and security in Nigeria. Misinformation as fake news is a serious threat to our hard-earned democracy and promotes hatred and misunderstanding between our communities. We are all responsible for stopping the spread of fake news in its tracks. So, always check the source and credibility of any news item. Say no to fake news. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information.
The time has come again when we all gather at the Unity Forum to celebrate the uniqueness of our cultural diversity and showcase the beauty of our cultural creativity and ingenuity. It's the National Festival of Arts and Culture, NAFEST, in the Garden City of Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Come, let's celebrate our culture and heritage. Hold it 20th to 27th October 2018. Special features, dance drama, traditional wrestling, indigenous textiles and cuisine, arts and crafts exhibition, entrepreneurship roundtable, skills acquisition, and many more. 20th to 27th October 2018. Be a part of history. It's NAFEST Rivers 2018, the festival that unites the nation.
Caring for the patients of typhoid and diarrhea is our responsibility. And these illnesses are often spread due to eating with unclean hands. So I recommend Dettol, as it protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs. That's why I want to be Dettol sure. Dettol, be 100% sure.
Dettol soap is now also available for 100 Naira only.
Yes, you are still with us. Good morning, Nigeria, and we go to business now. Revelations from the Ministry of Budget and National Planning indicate that the 2017 budget recorded over 80% implementation. Let's join Kunle Adeyeye for details of these and more on Business News.
Increases were recorded in all divisions that yielded the headline index on month-on-month basis. The headline index increased by 0.8% 10.84% in September 2018, down by 0.21 percentage points from the rate recorded in August 2018, which is 1.05%. The percentage change in the average composite CPI for the 12 months period ending September 2018 over the average of the CPI for the previous 12 months period was 13.16%, showing 0.39% point from 13.55% recorded in August 2018. The urban inflation rate increased by 11.70% year-on-year in September 2018 from 11.67% recorded in August 2018, while the rural inflation rate increased by 10.92% in September 2018 from 10.84% in August 2018. In a similar development, the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Senator Udoma, says the federal government 2017 budget recorded an 86% implementation. He disclosed these on the sidelines of the just concluded 2018 annual meetings of the International Monetary Fund (IMF) and the World Bank in Bali, Indonesia. He said although the performances of the ministries and agencies of the federal government varied, it was generally an impressive record. Senator Udoma said capital releases was at 1.44 trillion naira, which is the highest ever, while recurrent was almost 100%, as all debt service obligations were fully met. And next is graphic representation of Tuesday's tradings on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeyeye.
All right, thank you very much, Kunle, for the business package on Good Morning Nigeria. Next for us now is the newspaper review segment. Newspaper reviewer Bayo Atoyebe is right here with us in the studios as always. Bayo, good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, Femi.
Welcome.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Yeah, your appearance is very bright this morning.
Thank you.
We're very delighted.
Yes, we won 3-2, and that enhanced our position. We are now first in Group E.
Oh, that's right.
And that's very, very reassuring. We now have a final match, November 16th, with South Africa, and with them 1 point behind us. Even a draw will see us through.
And that's at home here in Nigeria.
Yes.
That's right. But of course, South Africa did the unthinkable, if you like, not too long ago when they defeated Nigeria on home soil. They had never beaten Nigeria in the past. So there should be a grudge match, as it were. You know, Nigeria should seek to exact their own pound of flesh. But regardless, congratulations to the Super Eagles and Bayo Atoyebe. I know that you were awake to watch that match. I did as well. All right, we have Daily Trust, Punch, The Authority, New Telegraph, and others. The Punch is a very busy front page, so we just take it right from the top to the bottom. Inflation rate rises to 11.2%. That's on page 25. That's the Punch. Row in Senate over $3.8 billion subsidy payment probe. Page 25. And Fayemi sworn in says Fayoshe's government was an error. That's page 10. Atom picks running mate, says he'll respect powers separation. Page 40. And 2 earpieces there beside the nameplate of the Punch newspaper, 2019 elections. Reps approve Buhari's 242.2 billion naira request. And Nigerian firms will construct $4.3 billion LNG Train 7, and that's according to the Nigerian Content Development Management Board. Lead story, it's on the immediate past governor of Ekiti State. EFCC Grace Fayoshe asks ex-governor to return 1.3 billion naira. 2 riders. I never received money from Dasuki. Dasuki is a former national security advisor. And that's according to Fayoshe. A drama as Wike, Fani Kayode, or Zekhobe follow ex-governor to EFCC's office. And that's what the photograph, of course, on the front page of The Punch is showing. In red cap there is Fani Kayode. Next to him in glasses, it's Wike, governor of Rivers, his sparse mustache. And then EFCC, I'm here, with a baseball hat. That's Fayoshe. You can see him with a backpack. There was reports indicating that those were some of his personal effects as well as toiletries in the event he needed to pass a night or more at the EFCC office. And to his right is Zekhobe. Now, this is a story that has been all over the news since yesterday. Outrage over killing of Red Cross worker. Details of that story can be found on page 3. Outrage over killing of Red Cross worker. And 400,000 unclaimed PVCs in Benue. That's according to INEC. And Taraba communities panic over insecurity. Bandits kill 4 travelers in Adamawa. And Kebbi court remands 14 new dancers. FCT Corp dismissed for obtaining 1.5 million naira under false pretenses. That's 419.
That's, I think Bayo has more than enough to chew on the Punch there, but let me add a new telegraph to him, and it's something on natural environment. Reps, that's on page 34 of New Telegraph. Reps task NEMA on flooding in Bayelsa, and Bayelsa is really at the neck of flooding this year. We go to authority, and we'll take a few stories on INEC. On page 20, we have INEC seeks efficient election funding model in ECOWAS. And below that page, too, we also have a story on INEC. 2019, INEC registers 6.6 million eligible voters in Lagos. Let's take a break there and allow Bayo to make a comment on this.
President Muhammadu Buhari has joined the condemnation of the execution and murder of Hawa Liman. He expressed his concern and agony to the father of the lady, Muhammad Liman, and he said his administration did all it could to secure the life of the lady. The Minister of Health has also joined in the outrage and said even in war circles around the world, health workers are recognized as humanitarian workers and are never touched. And it's very sad and very barbaric for the terrorists to have done what they did. Meanwhile, the stories that have dominated the pages relate to the budget that has been passed by the National Assembly. Papers are indicating that the Senate passed a separate figure and the House of Representatives also passed a different figure. From the reports from the newspaper, the Senate approved 242 billion, 255 million, 50,000 and 100 naira for INEC and 5 security agencies, while the House of Representatives approved a sum of 589.015 billion for the budget. Now, the difference here is that while the Senate approved just the environment for, as requested by Mr. President, the House of Representatives approved the original approval for INEC in the 2018 budget, as well as the environment as a supplementary, and that's why you have the highest figure. So on the run, there's a concurrence. The two houses approved 242 billion, 245 million, 50,000 and 100 naira as supplementary for INEC for the 2019 election. However, instead of the request by the president that the supplementary should, the environment should be made from the projects fund by which the National Assembly introduced, the two chambers took the environment from the social intervention fund, which is likely to affect the administration's program for social intervention. Meanwhile, there's been some political developments that at the courts in Zamfara State. The State High Court in Gusau has ordered the APC and INEC to maintain status quo ante. An aggrieved participant had gone to court and compelling the National Working Committee of the APC to recognize the primaries that were was conducted on 3rd and 4th of October, and to compel also INEC, on the other hand, to accept same. You will recall that the INEC had written to the All Progressive Congress that it does not have candidates for the 2019 election, for which the All Progressive Congress replied that they have candidates ensuing from primaries that was conducted on 3rd and 4th of April. Justice Mukhtar Yushau has ordered the two parties to maintain the status quo ante. That is an interesting development. The British High Commissioner for Nigeria, Mr. Paul Okrai, says the Executive Order 6 signed by Mr. President is important for rooting out corruption in the country. He says that an interim order will assist the fight against corruption. He said, I have heard that it is an anti-corruption measure. It is not for me to say who should or who should not be on the list, but it is important in continuing the fight against corruption and rooting out corruption where it is happening. So those are the latest development about the hue and cry about Executive Order 6.
Okay. More to do unfold from Executive Order 6, but I think I heard Kingsley say, was it Monday or Tuesday, that it is also important for everyone who wants to comment on Executive Order 6 to read the Executive Order and then read the Federal High Court Justice Ojuku's judgment, so as to talk from an informed position. Yes. Now, still return to authority, and we remain with the National Assembly. And this time, the National Assembly, page 17 of the authority, the National Assembly is assuring the passage of some bills. NAS assures on passage of whistleblower and other anti-corruption bills. Since we're talking on executive order and anti-corruption, this is just another one that would enhance the anti-corruption fight. And then below that story, still on page 17 of authority, we have 2019, Buhari reassures international community of free, fair elections. And still remaining with INEC on the same page of authority, INEC gives November deadline for distribution of PVCs. That is instructive to everyone who wants to vote in 2019. So you have a November deadline for the distribution. Possibly, of course, you can collect up till the time that it's available for distribution. Bye.
All right, Femi, I have the Daily Trust here. Some of the stories that we read earlier from the Punch newspaper, you can also find them on the front page of the Daily Trust. There's just below the nameplate of the Daily Trust newspaper, you have the approval by the National Assembly of funding for the elections via the security agencies. That story is there. And then the Fayoshe and the EFCC, that story is also there. And then Buhari, this one is a kicker. Illegal exodus to Europe hurting Nigeria's pride. That's the president saying illegal exodus to Europe hurting Nigeria's pride. He was speaking, of course, while bidding farewell to the outgoing High Commissioner of Namibia to Nigeria. And that's on page 3. And bio, that's very significant because in the course of that visit, the president reiterated the support that the Nigerian government in the past gave to the liberation movements in Southern Africa. Yes. And they recalled, in particular, the late General Murtala Mohammed and General Olusegun Obasanjo, who as military heads of state, favored the support for the liberation movements in Southern Africa. Because that led to the independence of Zimbabwe, followed subsequently by Namibia, and of course, then the dawn of democracy, that's majority rule in South Africa in 1994. So politics hasn't come in the way at all of historical recognition.
Yes, indeed. In fact, the landmark pronouncement by late General Murtala Mohammed at the Organization of African Unit, OAU, was that Africa has come of age and was not going to wait for the developed world to dictate to it what to do. And General Murtala championed the cause of the independence of Zimbabwe, Namibia, and eventually apartheid in South Africa, which was followed through all through the other military regimes. And in fact, the democratic governments gave material and all necessary diplomatic support for the liberation of those nations. Yes.
Bayo, you recall that at that time, Nigerian students also made contributions.
Yes.
Yeah, so we called the so-called South African Relief Fund.
Yes.
Yes, Nigerian students were making contributions. Now, the lead story is also on the clash over the subsidy fund. That's for Daily Trust. And below that, you have the photograph of the new governor, returning governor of Ekiti State. That's Dr. Kayode Fayemi. He had a 4-year break and back again on the saddle. He was sworn in yesterday at Ado Ekiti. That was a very elaborate ceremony. And right there at the foot of the front page, you have militias killing 5 travelers in Adamawa, page 4, and PDP appoints Saraki as presidential campaign DG. Armsgate, fresh trouble for ex-CAS Amosun. CAS stands for Chief of Air Staff. And that's on page 6. Amosun was Chief of Air Staff under the Goodluck administration.
Yeah, talking about the new governor in Ekiti State, his tenure began yesterday, having been sworn in yesterday. At the swearing-in ceremony, he promised that a thorough review of the present state of affairs will be done so as to let everybody know what has become of the Commonwealth of Ekiti. And he said, never again shall an educated state like Ekiti be an apostle of stomach infrastructure and become the laughingstock of Nigeria. The president was represented by the secretary to the government of the federation, and he reiterated that the governor will serve Ekiti with passion, commitment, and candor. The APC chieftains were all there. They were also in attendance 2 former governors and 7 current APC governors. Meanwhile, Governor Ayodele Fayoshi correct his threat that he's not going anywhere and he will report to the Economic and Financial Crime Commission. He was accompanied by the governors of Rivers State and Mr. Femi Fani-Kayode as Barrister Ezeo Kome. He was asked to write a statement about 1.3 billion he allegedly received from the office of the Secretary, National Security Advisor through a former Minister of Defense. And he is said to have written that his statement. Meanwhile, there's a human interest story that I'd like to draw your kind attention to. A 20-year-old lady yesterday took her father to Magajingari Sharia Court in Kaduna for the father's refusal to allow her marry a man she loves. She said that she has attained marriageable age, but her father is refusing to accept her heartthrob. He has gone to the court and is seeking the court permission that the court should serve as her guardian if her father persists, so that she can get married to her heartthrob. The father says is said to have been holding his blessings because the supposed husband has no regard for him. The judge has asked the father and all of them to come back on October 29th for intervention.
Good one there. Let's see what the
another 12 days.
Now, let's take the editorial, and the Punch is where we pick our editorial from. The Punch is focusing on the 2019 general elections, but issues to be discussed. And the title of the editorial is Economy 2. Excuse me. Economy 2 should shape campaigns. And now let's take the last 2 paragraphs that give a picture of what the Punch is talking about. Development, infrastructure, job creation, agriculture, and skills acquisition should be priorities at the state, and voters should demand concrete implementation plans from aspiring governors and state legislators. Democracy will begin to develop real progress excuse me, and prosperity when the citizens shake off their complacency and hold politicians to their promise and manifestos.
Yes, the kernel of the editorial by Punch is that the economy should shape campaigns. In other words, campaigns should refrain from being just a matter of name-calling, abuses, and resort to foul language about opponents. Rather, they should tackle the challenges that are facing the nation, which the Punch identifies to include restructuring, revitalizing the economy, security, as well as coordination of the nation by way of reviving the economy. He says citizens must hold politicians accountable for their promises and also make specific demand of politicians as their priority for matters that are of challenge to the nation. So campaigns should not just be sloganeering and just name-calling, but should be addressing the problems and challenges that the nation are facing. And the electorate must take note of them and hold those politicians accountable for the promises they make.
All right. INEC says officially campaigns will start next month.
November 18th, yes.
For the presidential. Bayo, I would like to thank you for being here. But just before we let you go, let's just take a look at the sign language page. That is coming from the Daily Trust newspaper, page 24. If we look at that, if you frame it properly, let's take it up a bit. Sign language, it says, this is from the UK, open 24 hours, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. 7 hours equals 24 hours. That's coming from the UK. Bye,
Thank you.
All right, so you'll be with us 24 hours from tomorrow, Bye.
Yes.
I believe so.
Yes, that will be 7 a.m. to 7:30 p.m.
All right, bye, Atibi. Thanks a lot for being around. See you tomorrow. Okay, we'll take a short break now.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
Under no conditions whatsoever should we tolerate or excuse or justify hate speech or hateful conduct of any kind, especially where such is illegal.
There's no doubt that the resurgent push for separatism, as well as the rising cases of ethnic and religious disharmony, are all traceable to the growing phenomenon of hate speech.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Your perfect family is under threat by germs. Infectious diseases are now the world's biggest killer of adults and children. These infectious diseases are caused by germs. They are everywhere. An average human being comes in contact with over 1 million germs daily in unclean water, dirty surfaces, in the toilets, on cuts and wounds, on your clothes. Germs can cause deadly diseases like typhoid, diarrhea, flu, and cough. To protect your family from germs, use the power of Dettol's One Capful for surface cleaning in your bathing water, in your laundry water, for first aid to protect your family from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Introducing Dettol Antiseptic Liquid in Sachet for only 40 Naira.
Endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
Helen! Your kitchen gets 10 out of 10.
Thank you.
This also gets a 10. Should we see the toilet now?
Sure.
This gets just 1.
It is clean.
But not perfect 10.
Better than my detergent and bleach? Impossible.
Challenge? Try the new Apic 10X.
Compared to bleach and detergent, Apic sticker formulation removes yellow stains times better, giving you a sparkling clean toilet.
Wow.
Now you also take that
Apic 10X challenge.
Also available in 200 ml pack.
Madam. Brought us as usual.
As usual. You have no problem.
For the three put.
You are welcome, sir.
As usual, yeah. I was.
You take that one. You take that one. You don't understand. We want Nigerian homegrown rice. Finish. You don't have. You don't have.
Join the rice revolution today.
No other rice that tastes like Nigerian rice. Are you sorry? That's the Nigerian rice we are talking about. Chocolate made in Nigerian rice. Healthy food. I'm going to bring Mrs. Mobu to come to chocolate rice of made in Nigeria here. And see how it are made.
Correct.
And how they are cook it.
Correct.
Homegrown rice are good for your health. It boosts our economy and give employment to our people.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Caring for the patients of typhoid and diarrhea is our responsibility. And these illnesses are often spread due to eating with unclean hands. So I recommend Dettol, as it protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs. That's why I want to be Dettol sure. Dettol, be 100% sure.
Dettol soap is now also available for 100 Naira only.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. As we indicated at the opening segment of the program, our conversation segment this morning is focusing on food security in Nigeria. Now, as a backgrounder for that conversation, and before we bring in our guests, let's join our correspondent, Gaba Muhammad Natala, with a report.
Despite the huge agricultural potential of Nigeria, food remains a challenge to most households across the country. A development observers say is unacceptable. Deeply concerned about social and environmental constraints, such as adverse climate conditions that bring about low yields, communal land conflicts occasioned by insecurity, analysts insist on coordinated efforts to surmount these challenges to attain food security. Poor harvest, rise in food prices, inadequate storage for food crops, coupled with low funding in the agricultural sector, necessitated households to remain highly dependent on assistance to meet their essential needs in different parts of Nigeria. Experts, however, say this challenge is a global phenomenon, leading to malnutrition and starvation among the poorest populations the world over. So far, the present administration has changed this perception with huge investment in agriculture by paying attention to the implementation of national programs to ensure food security. The federal government also encouraged the private sector as well as financing institutions to cushion the plight of the Nigerian farmer through access to loans. This created an enabling environment for both small and large-scale farmers to increase storage and processing and has provided job opportunities among other benefits. In the meantime, what monitoring mechanisms has government put in place to ensure sustenance? At what capacity is production moving to achieve food sufficiency in the country? Is there a long-term approach to sustain food production? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will be throwing more light on these issues today.
Thank you very much. We have at least 3 guests with us in the studios who are regulars on Good Morning Nigeria whenever we're discussing food and food issues. But let's introduce the latest guest that we are having here to discuss the issues today. He is Mawule Sabla. He's a nutrition and food system expert at the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, one of the specialized agencies of the United Nations. Sabla, Mawule, pleasure to have you with us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, now the regular faces. First, let's welcome again Professor Abba Gambo. Professor Abba Gambo, usually joining us from our Maiduguri Network Center, where it's at the Faculty of Agriculture, University of Maiduguri. But right now, is the Dean, Faculty of Agriculture and Crop Science at Yobe State University. That's at the capital, Damaturu. Professor Abba Gambo, pleasure to have you join us.
Usually it's good to be back home.
Yes. And you're also joining us is the President of Farmers Association of Nigeria, Architect Kabir Ibrahim. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We also have with us another regular, the National Coordinator, National Agricultural Foundation of Nigeria, Dr. Samuel Nagadu. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning.
Yeah. Now, should we start? Let me take Dr. Samuel Negadu first and ask, there are people who say that food security is just as delicate as national security. Where do you place, they say one can lead to a physical breakdown of security. How do you place food security in a nation's life?
Well, I look at it the other way around. What I see is food insecurity leads to national insecurity. Because in everyday language in Nigeria, we say an angry man. A hungry man is an angry man. And so, in Nigeria, right from Abuja through the spread of this country, where we found out that so many people are underprovided, especially from what we see now, the urban poor and the people who are so poor in the rural environment that they cannot even meet their production needs. And so the food insecurity stays on. We have a lot of fertile land in Nigeria, but what will make it possible is every day getting out of the reach of the ordinary Nigerian. We have land, but the credit is not there. And if the credit is not there, you cannot get to the farm and be productive. So I still maintain the fact that if we don't have food security, we are going to have a lot of national insecurity.
Now, let's also, let's take your thoughts, Mawule. Let's take your thoughts about the delicate placing of these two issues.
Thank you very much. And once again, let me bring you greetings from His Excellency Sofian Koroma, the FAO representative for Nigeria, and also acknowledge the very fruitful collaboration between the Food and Agriculture Organization and the government and people of Nigeria. And His Excellency, the President, is really passionate about nourishing Nigeria, not just feeding Nigerians, but nourishing Nigeria. Because following on the MDGs to the Sustainable Development Goals, the states and governments decided to ensure that the SDG 2 is focusing on food security, nutrition, and sustainable agriculture. Because we have realized that it's not sufficient to just have food. Nigerians must be nourished. And what does it mean, being nourished? Being nourished implies that you are able to diversify your production so that your population have access to diversified food of different nutrient sources. So there is an aspect of food security that is referred also to as hidden hunger, where your population are deficient in essential micronutrients. So for some time now, FAO's programs, whether it's in fisheries and aquaculture, livestock, or crops, or natural resource management, we are very much focusing on making sure that we inform the population and educate the population to understand the importance of nutrition security. Making sure that women are capacitated. The only way to this world is through a woman. So we want to make sure that our women are in optimal nutritional well-being so that even at birth, they give birth to babies that are already healthy because they themselves are are very healthy and in optimal nutritional well-being. And those children have the right birth weight and are able to grow up in an environment that ensures optimal health, optimal nutritional well-being. So when we are talking about food security, there is that aspect that ensures nutrition security, which is an investment. For every dollar you invest in nutrition, you obtain as much as $16 to $32 according to The Economist. So we want to make sure that our population are in optimal health so that even when they go to the farm, their productivity increases. And we ensure that they are able to produce what they need. Over 70% of our population are in agriculture. We first of all have to meet their needs. There is a significant amount of food waste and food losses because we do not have the technology to process and transform them and organize the market in such a way that the food is available both physically and economically in terms of financial access, because we are all not farmers. But if you are not a farmer and you want to buy food, you should have access to the food you want to buy. And you must buy food and diversify your food supply base so that you meet your nutritional well-being. So this year's World Food Day is really focusing the Director General of FAO, His Excellency Graziano da Silva.
Let me just jump in there,
Yes.
Mawule Shabla, so that we get the other two guests
Right.
who haven't spoken on this to make their foundational statements. Professor Abagambo, from your perspective, what is the status of Nigeria's food security?
Thank you very much, Kinsley. Good morning, Nigerians. Now, I want to start from the basics. Let's just define the concept of food security first so that we can lay a foundation. Right. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations at the Food Security Convention says food security is the availability, affordability, and a balanced diet for a particular individual. Availability means the food is there. Affordability means that individual has the per capita income to get the food, and then the food must be balanced. Balanced in the sense that all the nutritional status that a man needs for the day must be included there. But then it now went a little bit further, talking about not just the human population, but then even the animals in a particular country, both domestic and not domestic, you have to feed them. The animals in the zoo, the animals that are in the forest. So now the food security concept becomes something much more bigger than what we were actually talking before. Now your question is, what is the perception today? From the Northeast, I'm happy there are some very interesting news. Most of the IDPs that we are always talking about have gone back to their lands. Some have done substantial farming, most especially in Yobe State, where no IDP camp exists presently, and then all of them are back to their lands. They are all gone back to the farm with plenty of good news of harvest, etc. But then when you look at the typical food security scenario in Nigeria, Kinsley, Nigeria is still not food secured.
Why?
Not. Because with the rainfall pattern, most farmers went to the farms. Access to credit for the first time in the history of Nigeria, we got a single digit of 9%. And I must commend the federal government and the Minister of Agriculture for that. For the very first time, we're getting a single digit of 9%. But then some natural issues came. Most of the places that we call food basket of Nigeria had terrible floods, most especially in the north-central areas. Kwara, Niger, Kogi, which are Benue, all these are places we call food baskets. Then apart from that, the constant clashes between the farmers, herdsmen, has also put a very big dent on what we have. And even in Borno State, where I come from, the insurgency is still there. The fertile areas of Borno State, where you have the Lake Chad Basin, fertile soils where we do plenty of rice and wheat before, Southern Chad project, etc., those areas are still not accessible. So these are the issues. The rainfall pattern has been excellent. Farmers were able to get credit facilities at 9% digit, which is very good. Then, of course, the farmers were actually heavily mobilized in so many states. And in the Northeast, I must give credit to the FAO because they were actually given some seeds and some little fertilizer to the IDPs that went back to their original location so that they can begin to pick up the bits and pieces of their lives. And then mostly all of them were farmers. So they farmed. They farmed actually. But then the little skirmishes here and there has actually made the production not to be available for the whole of Nigeria.
Is there a special reference or a special parameter for ascertaining food security? Is food security determined on a year-to-year basis, or is a trend? I mean, it can be you have food security one year, food insecurity another year, or when you look at the totality of it, so over a period of time, 5 years behind, 5 years ahead, you have food security. How do you frame food security in terms of space and time, Professor Gambo, before I bring in architect Kabir Ibrahim?
Okay, now we are talking about the human population of Nigeria, which is about 193 million. The estimation is that by 2030, we are going to be 250 million Nigerians. Let me give a typical example. Rice, for example. Rice and stew happens to be one of the commonest meals in most homes. When we came, they said the total demand for rice for 180 million Nigerians is 5 million metric tons. And at that point, that was about 3 years ago, Nigeria was producing only 3 million metric tons. The remaining 2 million metric tons has to be imported, and it was costing the government about 517 billion naira per annum. So now the question is how to close the gap. Closing the gap means you have to do certain things. And the first thing we said, which the government took, was instead of planting rice just once, we can actually go ahead and do the 2-season planting, which the president launched in Kebbi State in November 2015 and has given boost to so many farmers in the northwestern region. And then another thing that is of very importance that we must know is, it's not a kind of situation that is dynamic. This year, we have good harvest, so everybody is happy. 180 million Nigerians are all going to bed with their tummy full. That's the issue we are talking about. It has never happened, Kingsley. Since our independence, Nigeria has never achieved the kind of food security goals we are talking about. Never.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Abba Gambo. Let's bring in architect Kabir Ibrahim. Architect Ibrahim, from your perspective, what is the status of Nigeria's food security?
Well, it's far from where we want it to be. There is a lot of food insecurity all over the place, but a lot of efforts are in place to make sure that this is achieved and sustained. The new policy promoting agriculture now is bringing in so many people who are hitherto in other activities. Even people in the petroleum industry are taking up agriculture. So it is hoped that everybody would look at agriculture as a business rather than a form of subsistence. And that way, so many investments will be put there. And credit lines would be open as there is some liberalization of the percentages that banks charge. And there are so many windows that like the CBN and other sectors are opening and making available to farmers. So we believe that in time, with the right kind of push, and if this tempo continues, we'll be able to sustainably provide food security for Nigerians. Mind you, there are many, many things that have to come to play for you to sustain this. You must be able to store what you produce, to reduce the loss in harvest, to also be able to process what you do. And you also must be able to have a marketing mechanism. Because if I produce yam, for instance, I don't eat yam all year round. I will have to use money to buy other things that I don't produce. So I must be able to sell my yam at a very good price to be able to afford rice or anything else. So it's a mixture of so many things that you have to do to attain that. If you take the United States, for instance, most people there are full-grown. They are not short, stunted like me, because there is the availability of food and at an affordable price, and you will be able to earn sufficient money to buy food. In Nigeria, we have to look at the whole gamut of these things that make life better, and everybody has to make contributions. government, the private sector, and everybody else.
It would seem, therefore, that focus must change from the previous idea of just eating. There's a proverb in Yoruba that says, "Omo mi o yo ni mo mo." Then ki se pe mi jeran. In those days, you could tell a child would say, I am not full. That is permissible. But I have not eaten meat. Nobody wants, I mean, that's luxury. It would seem, therefore, that attention must change into some scientific mode of determining what food security is, not just availability. Yeah. How, then, do we carry the large majority of Nigerians along in this area of selecting the productive part of feeding?
You have said it all. We must change our mindset as to what is food. And what do you mean when you talk of food security? It doesn't mean just food. It means food that is balanced, as Prof said. It has to be nutritiously valuable to you. You don't take egg, for instance. You should not look at eating egg a day as luxury. I am essentially a poultry farmer. The international standard is that a person should eat 1 egg a day. If in my village
irrespective of age?
Yes. In fact, the cholesterol level or contribution is very minimal when it comes to just egg. People are misunderstanding it. There is a good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. A contribution of good cholesterol from egg is very good and very high and desirable for growth, for wellness and all that. Now, coming to the global thing, if you take the school feeding program that we are witnessing today, there is a mixture of so many things, protein, carbohydrate and all that in a small pack at probably 70 naira. But a choice of these things is being deliberately made so that they contribute to the wellness of the individual. It's not just anything. Maybe if you just put gari for 70 naira, there is nothing, no protein, nothing, no semblance of it or anything, it will not work. It will just be food. So we must make a deliberate effort to provide for people what is really, really, really balanced. People must eat what is balanced to be productive. Someone alluded, doctor alluded to the fact that you must eat well and have a balanced and nutritious diet to be able to even go to the land. He is very realistic in Nigeria today because the level of mechanization is still very low. I foresee a situation, maybe in my lifetime, when there will be so much mechanization that the population of our farmers will reduce to probably less than 10%. Today we are like 70%. In the United States, the farmers are only 2%. In France, they are only 3%. There is mechanization. So as we get mechanized, the numbers of the people in agriculture will reduce. And the commercialization will come in, processing will take effect, and we will even be able to export processed produce.
All right. Thank you very much, Architect Kabir Ibrahim. Let's bring in again Mawule Sabla of the FAO. From the FAO perspective, what is its perception of the food security situation in Nigeria?
Yes, let me once again congratulate the government of Nigeria, because when you take the agricultural promotion policy under the Economic and Growth Recovery Program, with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, we've worked with them to develop the food security nutrition strategy. And let me allude to what Prof and Architect referred to earlier on about the importance of making sure that we balance our diets and we organize our food system. Because Nigeria has a huge potential, not only to feed its close to 200 million population, but even to feed West Africa, other African countries. The agricultural potential of this country is enormous. But when we talk about food security, it means that all your population have access, both physical and economic, at all times, to food that provides them with the optimum health that they need. Architect made reference to him being stunted earlier on. When you take the number of children in Nigeria that are stunted, and we are not just talking about you are too short for your age, but it means you are also stunted in your mind. So you cannot repair that. They become an economic burden for the rest of their lives. So it is therefore important for Nigeria for us to be able to address the problem rather than trying to cure it.
What is the FAO seeing in Nigeria today?
What we are seeing is that there is increasing investment in not just the normal way of doing farming, but trying as much as possible to organize the agricultural system, the food system, in such a way that we are able to identify what are the available nutrient sources. There are a lot of our indigenous foods that are disappearing. Moi, for example, is one of the very nutritious diets that you find in this country. Diversified vegetable sources in Nigeria. How do we educate Nigerians to understand the value of these foods? So one of the things that the FAO is doing is to make sure that the agricultural extension system, we embed nutrition education into the agricultural curriculum of the training of the agricultural extension officers. Architect made reference to the school feeding program. We want to make sure that children, right from childhood, understand the importance of nutrition. So nutrition education should be included in the curriculums of our schools, from primary to secondary, even to the university level. Then people are informed, because sometimes it's not that we do not have access. We have access, but we do not have the knowledge and the understanding of what to grow, how to process, how to even cook our food, so that we conserve the nutritional value of our food. Everybody should be, every Nigerian should eat 400 grams of fruit a day. And there are fruits in this country. Various indigenous local fruits are available. We need to add value to them, process them, make them available. Livestock, milk, yogurt, cheese. Talk about these commodities. They are there. They are available.
Yeah, well that's Sabla. Thank you very much for your response. But I would like us to return to, if you like, the frameworks articulated by Professor Gambo and Architect Kabe Ibrahim with regard to the concept of food security. Professor Gambo indicated at least 3 items in that mix. 1, availability. 2, affordability and balanced diet. We've spoken extensively on the issue of balanced diet. Right. Architect Ibrahim then introduced the aspect of storage, loss reduction, processing, and marketing. I would like Dr. Sam Negedo, let's now decompose all of these factors in the mix of food security. Availability, for instance. What are the challenges that Nigeria faces with regard to availability of food in the food security mix?
They are enormous. One of them was mentioned by the President Afan. Storage, transportation. We have food perishing in localities. I had experience around the middle of this year in Taraba. I found out that major bridges were gone. And if you go, you find out that there's a lot of production in livestock and in crops. They cannot get out. And when they try to come out, they are not that affordable. We also have a global, beautiful picture removed from the realities of the localities. Now, the President Afan produces a lot of eggs. The eggs, the neighbors to his farm, most of them may not even be able to get out to buy, because most of it may go into the city of Kano, of Katsina. The awareness by even the local person that he should meet his nutritional demands is still not there. There is some common thing in Nigeria. They say, I eat 3 times a day, and you have mentioned it. Yes, my child ate gari this morning. He also ate gari this afternoon. And this evening, he's going to have, we have enough gari. Is that something? This education mentioned by the FAO has to go to the grassroots level. But then, Professor Gambo will tell me that he's doing a lot of classroom job. The government at the state and the federal level have good intention. We want them to make that good intention reachable. Extension is still not what we want. Either encourage the private extension service so that this awareness can grow. That somebody who produces a leafo will get the value and not take them all the way to town to sell. You have people growing ugu at the back of their houses. They are not having enough minerals. You have this poor education within our system. And some people will tell you outright, yes, I've eaten. Well, I thank God I even have something to eat. That statement is still sound and in place in Nigeria. And I think we should get to a point that we will say, okay, the average Nigerian is well informed. The elite in Nigeria is shifting to health food. We want it to reach down because the other Nigerians are still removed from that reality.
Now, since independence, every government seems to recognize that something needs to be done, and you can see from our history that we have had various attempts at improving our food security. We had Operation Feed the Nation, we had Green Revolution, D-Free was there and all that. Now, we are where we are now. What, after all the different contributions, what is it that a government should be doing now, in terms of this sitting government and possibly a coming government, to redirect sharply, predominantly, our food deficiency? Something that becomes a national program, not just a slogan, but a direction that government begins to chart, that everybody follows. At one time, they told us everybody could farm. We all started to farm. But we still have this deficiency. Why is this deficiency persisting?
Thank you very much, sir. Now, please permit me to expand the balanced dieting, because everybody has been talking about nutritional. Let's just take it to the basics. What we mean by balance is there are 4 classes of food that you must eat every day for you to have a balanced diet. Number 1, milk and milk products. Number 2, meat and meat products. Number 3, grains and cereals. Then number 4, fruits and vegetables. If these 4 classes of food are never captured in the 3 diets or the 3 dishes you eat every day, then definitely, however great you are, however big you are not eating a balanced diet.
But do you realize that our local communities have some of these things at their beck and call? They just have it at the back.
Mr. Okio, I sincerely agree with you, but then let's just do a simple analysis quickly. Pounded yam with egusi soup. You understand? Yes. Pounded yam, pure starch. So you now have what I mean by the carbohydrates, you have that one. Yes. Then let's take at the egusi soup, depending on your pocket, that's how the soup is, right? So egusi, the egusi is there, melon, which is pure vegetable also with some proteins. Then you have the oil that is going to be there. So it's now taking charge of the other products I'm talking about. Then the meat and the fish. I said meat and meat products. Yes. You understand? But then after eating your pounded yam and egusi, excellently, you wipe your hands, you clean your hands. What happens to the milk and milk products? So that milk issue, it's the major thing that is hindering food security in Nigeria all over. Every individual is supposed to take a glass of milk per day, which is lacking in Nigeria, definitely. But then all the other three groups are there. Now to your question quickly, what can the government do sharply to make sure that the narrative is changed? And the only thing the government can do sharply to make sure that a new trajectory is brought into agriculture and food security is by mopping up the youths into agriculture. Today, there are 10.3 million youths that are out of school, and more than 90% of them are in the northern states. So what happens to them? And you have to feed them. So we want a situation whereby the government will come up with an intensive and motivational project that will endear the youths, all of them. You now see them parading after NYSC 2 years, 3 years, no job. So we want a kind of situation whereby you can motivate all the youths into agriculture, and that is going to change the narrative sharply. If, for example, every year the NYSC graduates are made to engage into some form of agricultural activities, the food security situation is going to change, definitely. And one thing with agriculture is something that you plant it and then you reap as quickly as possible. The issue of Dr. Negedu saying Alefo, which is amaranthus, the gestation period is just 21 days. You plant amaranthus today, exactly 21 days your amaranthus is ready, you go to the market and then you get the money. So it's a kind of physical thing, physical.
Well, Professor Gambo, on the issue of availability and then the knock-on effect it has on affordability and ultimately, therefore, on balanced diet, Dr. Negedu gave a scenario. He says that we can find a number of communities that, despite the ongoing methods of agricultural production, there's a lot of production that is going on. I know we know seeds and seedlings are pouring in, and then there are efforts to ginger up agricultural production. But he then talked about the evacuation of the agricultural produce when they are available. Bridges have been washed out, and then the farmers are unable, therefore, to evacuate their produce. You've been a consultant to the Governors Forum. The issue has been there for several decades of having to construct rural infrastructural roads to assist with the evacuation of this agricultural produce. Why does it appear to be the case that the subnational governments continue to pay lip service to this very significant link in ensuring that there is availability and a knock-on effect on affordability of the food security chain?
Thank you very much, Kinsley. In July 2001, the 19 northern governors consulted Admiral Murtala Nyako, Dr. Shetima Mustafa, and the present Minister of Agriculture, Chief Audu Ogbe, to come up with a Marshall Plan for the 19 northern states. The major recommendation that was given is, when you grow and then you harvest, what happens to it? So that's the value addition. Kinsley, 2001 to date, all the 19 northern states, none has put up a simple processing plant for any agricultural product. Let's take the issue of Kano State, for example. Kano grows plenty of tomatoes across the Kura, Churomawa axis. The tomatoes are there. But then the post-harvest loss, Kinsley, is 69% according to our statistics. So every 100 fruits of tomato that you harvest, 69 doesn't get to the table. It's rotten. So we now said, why can't the state governments put up a small processing plant based on your comparative advantage? If you are a citrus state, you can put up a small citrus processing plant. If you are an onion state, you can still put a processing plant to make the onions into flakes, whatever, etc. But the issue is, we did a peer review under the Nigerian Governors Forum, 36 states of Nigeria. Kinsley, the fact is, no state has a single agro-processing plant existing governmentally. There is none. And I stand to be quoted. And then the second issue is, the farming procedure, at the time you're doing the harvest, for example, yam that everybody is talking about, when you're slashing and then digging up, you also put some little pricks on the yam and it's gone. The tuber, once you just prick it, as little as possible, it cannot reach the market because the color begins to change right there. Your pawpaw, as you're harvesting, if there is a little prick somewhere, it can't reach. Even the bananas and the plantains. So you make sure that you harvest them in modern ways that they cannot be injured, because every injury takes it out. So Kingsley, the most important thing is, whether we like it or not, the government has to come up with processing plants to add value. That is one. Then secondly, accessibility of roads, very important. Now the people at Taraba, all their yams are going to be rotten. The flooded areas, all the rice is already gone. The legumes, cowpea, soybean, etc., they are already gone. But then if there are some kind of buffer situations, NIMET gave the recommendation that 9 states are going to be flooded. And I was expecting the Federal Ministry of Agriculture to be proactive. Get ready. Because some floods actually, agriculturally, are beneficial and advantageous. I'm sorry to say, not the human loss. But agriculturally, new nutrients are brought, organic manure are brought. Exactly. So the soil becomes more fertile. So if the flooded area is now receding back, there are little crops that you can put, and then you can even gain more than what you have. A very good example is sweet potato. If the rice farm is washed away, and then you can instantly put sweet potato, what you're going to get out of it might even be more from the original rice you put into. But then all those farmers are there without any incentives from anywhere.
Yeah, that has to do with extension services that not only will be required.
That's right.
I'm sorry, Professor Abagambo, thanks a lot. I'm just wondering, Dr. Negado, we have something before we bring in Architect Ibrahim again.
One link that is missing here.
Namely? Government
has changed hands over these years. And there's no continuation in programs. This continuation, the government, as we keep on saying, is a continuum. And if it is to be so, let there be positive carryover of the good effects. But for now, programs are identified with government, and when they are out of place, they are dropped. And this is happening more at the state level where agriculture is happening.
I don't know. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Negado. Architect Kabi Ibrahim, this aspect of rural infrastructure, particularly with regard to roads and then access and then value addition, even at the cottage industry level, why have we not keyed in? Because from what you say and what you have said on this program and all other guests that we have had, look, even if we took subsistence agricultural production, excuse me, as we have it in Nigeria today, the chances are that our farmers are very productive. I mean, they could be more productive, but the post-harvest losses are significant. And then, of course, you have the cost that is added as a result of difficulty in evacuating the harvest. So what do we need to get right? Babangida, under his military administration, brought in DFRI, but right now, state governments hardly talk about that. I mean, some of them, I'm saying not all of them do. Local governments, they have been emasculated by the state governments. What do we need to do to reach the farms, to get to the farm gate much more readily, much more easily? And then also help with the creation or the establishment of cottage industries, if not by the government, but at least through facilities to enterprising individuals?
There are many factors here that you need to look at. First and foremost, I do not subscribe to the notion that the state will provide cottage industries, processing places and all that. No, but the government will create the enabling environment for people to be able to do that. Fundamentally, the agriculture promotion policy is encouraging us, incentivizing us to be able to invest into agriculture as a people, just like we invest in other businesses. It is saying it is prudent for us to go into agriculture. As we elect our representatives, we should also ensure that they go in with the notion that they will do those projects that will enhance what we do in agriculture. If it be the provision of feeder roads, access and all that, we hold them onto it. if a person from my village aspires to become a member of the House of Assembly in my state, and we look at the nooks and crannies of our local government and find that the production areas are not accessible, and when they produce, they cannot take what they produce to the market, we will charge them to make sure that these places are opened up before we re-elect them. We will not encourage our youth to be giving money and motorcycles and drugs and all that, to come and campaign and all that. We will charge these people to do what is needed to make the majority of our people more comfortable, rather than just a few that they select. This is politics. Politics has to change. Our attitude to politics. This is what happens all over the place. If you go to rural England, there was a time we used to go to attend the Royal Agricultural Show. It was going on for 161 years in Stonehenge. If you go by train from London, Paddington Station, up to Manchester, left and right, you see animals grazing in plush green, and you see farms well developed, fenced, a lot of things happening. And then this place that is selected for the Agri Show is owned by the people, by the farmers. In fact, the Prime Minister of England does not go for any of the ceremonies. It is the Queen that goes. It is not government. No politics about it. People do agriculture, and they want to do it.
The Queen is head of state.
No, hang on. I'm talking so that our DG in NAFAN will understand that we do not need to cry if the minister or the president do not attend our agricultural show. They are not necessarily supposed to be there. We must encourage the farmers and the people interested in agriculture to be there. That is the way to incentivize these people. I have touched a number of issues, but the most important one is for us to be able to create processing zones, cottage industries and all that. It is not the government per se. It is the government is supposed to provide the enabling environment. Even for patronage, if I was governor, for instance, I would not patronize anybody who would make money from my government to buy a car, buy an aircraft, buy anything. No, I would patronize those people who will reinvest, who will give back to society.
Give us an example of what kind of environment you want. If you say government does not have to create cottage industry, they don't have to, what is the environment you're talking about?
I will tell you what has happened before 1975 in Jigawa State. Now Jigawa State, Audubako created so many things, many dams, and even tomato factory in Jigawa by the road, you see it. It is moribund. It is not working. Government cannot run a business. It is proven. In fact, government is divesting, is selling off all over the world. But the government will create the enabling environment for you and I to be able to build industry. Either by patronizing what we know how to do, and by liberalizing acquisition of land, and probably making it easier for me to do business, to set up that, and then create rebates.
Are they not are they not an environment that encourages people to come and locate farms near? From Kano, as you enter part of Kaduna State, you see some strings of dams. Are they not part of the environment that government needs?
They are, yes.
Bagauda, those areas, you find that
they are. In fact, that is why even from the rudiments of performance in the agricultural show, Kano State always comes first, because all these enabling environments are there, and the people are able to farm, and they produce a lot more than other places where these things are non-existent. It works, and we should encourage it. People should get into government with the proper understanding of what needs to be done, and we put them in place because they can do what we want them to do.
All right, Architect Ibrahim, let's pause in the meantime. We're taking a short break. When we return, we continue with the conversation. We'll also take the tweets that have come in.
Oh boy, climb this thing now. No be only to connect lights.
Come you and yourself now.
Now wow.
But calm down now. Oga Kasali electrician, who would they look for with this? Oh. Oga Kasali, come help us fix this wire now.
Ah, sorry. I no longer carry out illegal connection. It puts the lives of people at risk and can cause fire outbreak and disrupt power supply. I will never be part of anything that has to do with this any longer because change begins with me.
Oh boy, wetin him talk make sense. Oh boy, we could carry this ladder comot from here.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
When I was a little girl, I loved spending time with Mum and Grandma cleaning the house. I was so excited to sing in the choir.
And your shirts are always so white.
I knew what Mum's secret was. Today, I'm a modern woman that still trusts the secrets passed down to me. It's Jik, of course. The original trusted bleach, which can be used all around your house for amazing results.
Shh, it's our little secret.
It's no secret. It's Jik's best ever extra whitening power. Just Jik it.
For years, the NTA has been promoting science, technology, arts and crafts under the tagged name National Children's Expo. We are set with another edition as we gather children around Nigeria. Junior category ages 6 to 12 and senior category ages 13 to 18. The theme for Expo 2018, achieving self-sufficiency in agriculture, meeting the challenges of security and exposition of alternative energy as pathways to national development. Date, October 21st to 25th, 2018. Venue, NTA Headquarters Arena, Area 11, Garki, Abuja. We are set to celebrate the best of innovation across the country. NTA ETV, promoting learning.
All right, you're welcome back from the short break, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria, and we are discussing food security in Nigeria. We have some tweets now. We'll quickly go through those tweets and then return to our guest. Dele Jack Solomon has this tweet. It says, the demand for food is greater than the supply in Nigeria. To achieve sustainable food security, there's a need for funding, subsidy grants, removal of land tenureship, good customs and excise services, upgraded technology, and improvement in environmental management.
Now, Bukar Danyaya tweets, the answer to food security is in seeds. Federal government should strengthen National Agri Seeds Council of Nigeria to get better seeds.
And Chris Simeon, Nigerian farmers do not have the capacity to take part in mechanized farming. Only few can. Let's say less than 5%. What is the basis for your assertion, Chris?
And Raji Abidemi tweets, honestly, if you want to achieve food security, our local government chairman needs to bring infrastructure to the villages so that it would encourage youth in Nigeria. God bless Nigeria.
Abdullahi Onishabi tweets, now the effort of the federal government in farming is highly commendable, but more needs to be done. The Anchor Borrowers program of the CBN has to be expanded to attract more hands to farming, particularly the youth.
And still from Dele Jack Solomon, it is high time each state in Nigeria specializes in mass production of agricultural products where it has comparative advantage, backed by interest-free loans and well-equipped millennium settlements to lure idle youth to the farm. Good storage facilities, basic infrastructure, and buyback policies provided by government at all levels will also go a long way in ensuring food security in our country.
Babagana Mohammed tweets, now affordable mechanization of agriculture, reduction of post-harvest losses, and effective agricultural research are the strongest ways of ensuring food security, not just in Nigeria, but anywhere else in the world.
And Ichena Melody tweets, to me, if we can solve the problem of roads, multiple taxation, and power, we have achieved 85% of food security in Nigeria.
Anas Umar tweets, for Nigeria to achieve food security, government should make the sector attractive to the youth so that many more hands can come in. Not just that, funding is also something that we need to focus on.
And from someone who calls himself on common sense, Nigerians, the president currently is embracing mechanized production as an easy way to boost agriculture.
Well, let's just go on with, from our third set of tweets. Go to Suleiman Yahaya. Says that what we need to do more, especially, is engaging the youth with the aid of mechanization. That is channeling youth corps members, that's to say the NYC, during their primary assignment with the target of increasing crop yields as well as having the government as caretaker.
And from Prince Simon, a country like Nigeria, where the population is increasing rapidly, should not ignore famine. If it dares, hunger and starvation will be the order of the day. That should not be our portion. Please let everybody go back to the farm.
And lastly, from Kachala Mala, it says funding of agricultural research institutions is key in determining food sufficiency rights in Nigeria. But Femi, those are some of the tweets. I just wanted us to return to the issue of availability, evacuation, post-harvest losses, and before we get into the more elaborate issues of storage, that has to do with the strategic grains reserves and so on and so forth. That there is, for example, a place in Edo State. It's called Obadan. If you know the spelling of Ibadan, then instead of I, make it an O. I first went to Obadan nearly 50 years ago, and Obadan was the locus for plantain harvests. Plantain. And so the plantains you find in Lagos normally would come from Obadan, Obadan to Lagos. They, of course, take them by what then were 911 trucks. There were no trucks bigger than 911. You had Austin and so on and so forth. But the road from what was the highway to Auchi, the road was hopeless. And there used to be a lot of vehicular breakdown, particularly of those 911 trucks. And so they would spend some days trying to fix their trucks, while they are trying to evacuate the plantains that they have bought, the traders now, to take them first to Benin and then from Benin to Lagos. 50 years later, I don't think that road has been fixed. That story is virtually the same as it were in most rural parts of Nigeria. The road has not been fixed, it's not been repaired 50 years later. I'm wondering, gentlemen, both Dr. Negedu and Ibrahim, Dr. Architect Ibrahim was saying, look, get politicians to be interested, let them focus on this. Has the agricultural body, or have farmers as a body tried now to get themselves into a lobby group to persuade local governments, Algon, for instance, even though we know that they are emasculated, because these are roads, within their province, their jurisdiction to handle, to say, look, these are the things that we need. Yes, we know you interact with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, Agricultural Research, but in terms of having motorable feeder roads, will the agricultural unions try to take this part?
Well, often, we are present in the 774 local governments of Nigeria. And the peculiarities in the road conditions and farm to market access and losses that we suffer because of the bad condition of this, it's been a very, very serious problem to us. Recently, we had a West Africa and Central Africa conference on post-harvest loss in Yaradua Center. I wonder whether you were there. We are looking at the picture globally, in these zones, in these regions of Africa. It is a very serious problem. And you have alluded to the fact that the local governments feel emasculated by the states and all that. We still go back to what I was positing, that for anybody to get mandate to represent us, we must come to them with a catalogue of demands that they must meet. If we do that, we make these things topical. People treat these things as priority. Otherwise, it is exceedingly difficult, even for a government in place, to be able to ascertain clearly what needs to be done in all the areas in Nigeria. It is important that we as farmers, as a group, work a little more to sensitize our people to form an advocacy block to be able to talk to everybody, not only limited to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture or the state government or the even local government's headquarters. Even from the ward level, we must be able to come forward to say, look, this is our problem, address it, and catalog it, show exactly what, like the issue of Obada. Okay, I was in a conference, AATF conference in Kampala. In Kampala, I was given a food item on the menu every day for every meal, and it is their local, I don't know what they call it, you know, it's made out of plantain. It is produced like gari. It is flour. Yeah, they make it like flour, and it is like fufu. Different soups are given. It is almost there every day. It is the common factor in all the meals that come. It is the common factor, and we can do that. We are only doing that to gari. Okay. We can do that to many of these things.
As we begin to wind down on this discussion and look forward, we hear of Agenda 2030. What are the things that we can begin to look forward in this agenda that would help us reach where we want to reach?
Thank you very much. Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals. We are saying that zero hunger is achievable in our generation, in our lifetime. In fact, we produce enough food, sufficient to be able to feed everybody in this world. Of course, I will always say that food is something that we should not politicize. Like we made reference to it. I mean, it's fundamental for national security. But if you take the SDGs, you realize that nutrition underlines most of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So we are saying that if you are able to make sure that you put your population in optimal nutritional well-being, you will be able to drive your economic development in a very strategic way. But one of the factors that we have been missing is capacity, which has not come to the fore. We've spoken, Professor Negedo made reference to the need for education. But capacity is key. Even for small, medium-scale enterprises, you need capacity to be able for people to understand what they need to be producing. Documentation of operational procedures, record-keeping systems, most of our small, medium-scale enterprises, they don't have it. So when you change one staff, another staff comes in, they're doing things differently. Consistency in the way we plan. We have beautiful plans and strategies in place, policies and programs in place. But without the capacity and the continuous training to reinforce capacity. If you want youth to go into agriculture, you need to reinforce their capacity. You need to organize the system in such a way that you produce enough food technologists, you produce enough engineers, you produce sufficient, and make sure you retain them within the agricultural value chain.
All right, Sabla, thank you very much. Professor Abagambo, still on the aspect of food security relating to storage, are we up to scratch with regard to our strategic grains reserves?
There are 33 strategic silos in Nigeria, in 33 states. The silos, big silos, you have them in 33 states out of the 36 states. And Kingsley, to amaze you, that more than 99% of the silos are empty. So that is a basic fact. But then quickly I want to add that the losses are not just on the farm or on the road. Losses are also in the homes. So we have to bring, Nigerians are naturally wasteful people. Why do you have to cook more than what you need when you know that there is nobody you can give to? So the wastage is there. Kingsley, have you seen an angry woman peeling yam? She peels half of it off today. So these are very important things, really. Cook that will be enough for the family, and then, but then by the time you open the fridge, you see a goosey of day before yesterday, pounded yam of 3 days ago, and at the end of the day, when NEPA goes up, you have to throw everything into the dustbin, etc. No, we are very wasteful. We have to take into
your closing thoughts, please, on this discussion.
We need to maintain consistent education of our farming populace and sustain this issue of our awareness that insecurity in food supply can create a destabilizing role in our polity and checkmate our growth.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Samuel Negedu, of course, is the National Coordinator of the National Agric Foundation of Nigeria. We'd like to thank you for being part of our conversation. I do hope you follow up with architect Kabir Ibrahim with regard to creating an advocacy group to the subnationals with particular focus on feeder roads as well as greater attention to agricultural production and evacuation. Thanks a lot for being with us on the program. Of course, architect Kabir Ibrahim, one of our regulars, president of Farmers Association of Nigeria. Thank you for being with us today. We also would like to appreciate Mawule Sabla, who is a nutrition and food system expert at the FAO, that's the Food and Agriculture Organization, one of the specialized agencies of the United Nations. Last but not the least, Professor Abba Gambo, coming all the way from Damaturu, where he is at the moment, Dean, Faculty of Agriculture and Crop Science at the Yobe State University. Professor Gambo, thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And by the way, Femi, you know, we didn't have time to deal with that in terms of balanced diet. On one of our programs in the past, Professor Gambo did give us a map, the nutritional map of Nigeria, according to zones. And I remember him saying that the Southeast has the highest nutritional value in terms of their diets in the country. So that does it for us in our conversation segment. Let's go over now to sports.
Appearances. Here we go then for this grouping.
Nigeria survived a late scare to beat Libya 3-2 in the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations AFCON qualification Group E match in Tunisia.